it's 2Bricks, and I am so excited to bring you the third and for now final installment of my Lego custom LAAT, I'm gonna say not Ultimate Playset Scale series, I'll get into that a little bit later, but my just mock of this particular ship. I'm so excited to be able to bring this to you guys, and I decided that for the intro shot here I was just gonna fully load up figures all around. We got clone troopers out the wazoo. Both bubble turrets are being manned. We got clone troopers. We got battle droids being hacked apart by the laser beams mercilessly. We've got Jedi. We've got everybody in here. So very excited to kind of show you guys the full finished ship for today. And then, you know, eventually I'll be getting around to doing a Clone Wars version at least, and then we'll see if there are other variations in the cards. I am waiting for a few parts for this to finish it off in the correct color scheme, but I was just too excited to shoot the video and show you guys all the features and all of the finished details, and some of the things that I was not unfortunately able to achieve that I had wanted to. But again, we'll get into all of that and all the details in a little bit here. But yeah, I'm just really excited to have this thing finished in its kind of final form, at least, minus, like I said, asterisk for the few missing parts here and there. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of take you through some of the challenges, because there have been a lot of design challenges and some almost ground up redo elements to this from the previous version, which you probably can't really tell on camera because it looks virtually identical, at least the parts that were finished before. But yeah, got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to dive in and talk about it all with you guys. I will, of course, be working on instructions for this right away, and if you leave me a like on this video or subscribe to my channel, I will be that much more motivated to hurry up and finish those. So so there you go, that's your motivation to leave a like for me today. I appreciate it very much. And yeah, without much further ado, let's just kind of take a look at all of the crazy stuff going on with this LAAT Republic Gunship mock. So here we go. Alright, so I just wanted to go ahead and take off a lot of the extraneous detail from the sides there so you can really get a look at and appreciate the gunship itself here. The doors are obviously in the open position, and you can just see the full form of it. Eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed that in the intro shot, the red tips of the rockets under the wing on this side were not in place, and so I forgot to put the red tips on there, so I just went ahead and did that right now. So there you go, those are in there. No need to panic. So yes, these pieces right here are temporary. They're waiting for some parts orders to come in. I have a couple of off-color pieces, such as this tan one single brick with studs on the side in here. Sorry, some dog fur right there. That is also on the way, and a couple of other spots around the model. I won't bother to call them all out, but if something looks like it's a little bit of an off-color, it just might be, so that's just what that is. But yeah, this is the completed design, and I couldn't be happier with it. The reason that I decided not to designate it as an Ultimate Playset Scale series model to fit in with my others of that series is because I do feel that this is slightly more tenuous, slightly more geared towards display, although it is handleable. It's just kind of in that gray area, sort of like my latest rendition of the Falcon, the Hunka Chunk, that the instructions are currently available for as well. That one is you know, more geared towards putting it on a table, taking it apart, putting figures in it, displaying it, and kind of appreciating it, but you can handle it if you want to. And I would say that this kind of fits into that same realm. I was really going for maximum visual accuracy here with the model, and so you know, at the cost of a little bit of ruggedness, I guess. But I would still say that I would be happy to put this up there as a very buildable and very easy to handle model if you know the right spots. So as you can see, I've also completed a display stand here, which puts it at this nice takeoff angle, this kind of aggressive nose tilted down angle here, which I really like the look of, and just really gives it that action pose that you want to see from your gunship. So let me kind of take a look, or give you guys a look at some of the topside details, which we can't really see from this angle, and then I'm just going to kind of go into some of the struggles that I had going back to the last video and what I did to address those, because there were quite a few. Alright, so there's a ton of new stuff to show you before I get into some of the things that I changed, so let me just kind of go through all the things that are new. So we have obviously the completed wings and engines. The top side here is complete. The back side here is complete. And this was all the stuff that was kind of in progress last time. So this is all pretty much unchanged, though this entire section here kind of got reworked. The internals of that got reworked. I was actually chatting to some other builders who've done magnificent LAAT models and asking their advice about the weight issue back here of, you know, the preventing the sag that can come from all of this weight being supported by just these little diagonal struts right here. And essentially the advice that I got from both Thomas Jenkins Bricks and Rich Boy J was just reinforce this as much as you can. And so that's what I did. I went in here and I just reinforced everything to have a lot of interlocking, clamping brackets and things that are all just kind of holding this as firm as it can possibly be and making this back structure here as solid as it can be, so that you know, when you're touching and manipulating the model on the top, you don't feel this crunch underneath here, which for the most part you do not, unless you're really, really rough with it. So, you know, you just have to treat it with the respect that a high-end Lego model deserves. But yeah, pretty pleased with the kind of studless look back here. These little gray details do stick out ever so slightly, but you know, I think it works well enough, and it kind of needed to be the way that it is in order for all of these details up here to be incorporated the way that I wanted them to. So the vents here are, if it'll focus, the vents here were a really, really tricky section to figure out. I'd seen a lot of people using different kinds of pieces. There was the skate method, or using those kind of, or not skate, those, what do you call them, ski pieces stacked up. A lot of different solutions, but I really wanted to use these. Ever since I first saw the LAAT, I thought that this piece would make for a great vent section back here. The only problem is, of course, that these are these cheese grater pieces, which are a triangular piece that comes at an angle, so you can't really sit them flat on a surface like this. So what I did is I came up with a way to build a little internal structure to put these tilted at an angle, so that they would kind of line up with the rest of the frame up there. And then I have these little silver details in here that are supposed to represent these kind of, they look like wires that run up the backside here that connect this gold grill detail to this detail section. I'm not exactly sure what those are supposed to be, but you know, they are present on the design, so I wanted to represent them in here. Specifically, this is the shiny, straight out of the factory episode 2 version that I'm going for, so that is what that is. But yeah, so that was a really fun section to figure out, really, really tricky with all the details, and getting the little roller skate piece in here just to give it that little extra bit of side detail, which is accurate to what we see in the movie, was really, really fun and hard to figure out, and I'm really glad that it's done now, because it was a real headache. And then this whole section in here, keeping this nice and flat on the top, and then also angling in these side sections. And I actually went a little bit of an extra mile here, and I made this section here angled more so that it can line up, you know, kind of parallel to the trailing edge of this wing, and this one is more flat. It's because I guess it's an air intake, it has a more of a flat profile compared to that. And if you look at again Gunship models, you can see that this angle here is shallower than this one, so that was something I was really, really happy to be able to achieve. And then up here I'm using one of these 6 stud shooters that is, it is held in here, it's not just sitting, it's got a bar that runs through it, but it needed to be at a very, very specific angle, so I had to remove the kind of center piece of this. It's sort of a 2-part piece that I don't think you're ever supposed to actually remove the central one. It was a real nightmare to get that out, and I actually had to build a special Lego jig in order to be able to remove that firing mechanism piece from the inside of this. But this is just the perfect piece. It fits in here just right, and it gives it that nice vent detail that we like to see here. And the cutout and the way that it's just ever so slightly lower than the rest of the engine, or you know, slightly narrower, gives it the absolute perfect look for that section. So I'm super happy with that solution. And then also the backside here, this is something that changes pretty much from mock maker to mock maker on every single version of the Gunship, and this is my take on it. I just wanted to get the simple black holes in the back here, because again, that's most accurate to what we see in the scene where we first are introduced to the LAAT Gunship. So yeah, there's all of that, and you know, the front part of the engine that I had before and this little vent detail here have all finally been connected in together to form the finished article, and I'm so pleased. I did, when I shared some photos of this on Instagram, I did have a few people comment that they thought the wings looked a little short. I am using a render that somebody did of their gunship, which looked pretty accurate to me, and I'm using the kind of blueprint, I guess blueprint images, style images that they did, orthographic views of the ship to check against, and this is the appropriate length. So I don't know if that's an illusion or if it's something that we've become used to with different toys and models, like elongating the wings or emphasizing them more, but these seem to me to be correct, and according to what I see in the movies, they seem correct too. So I don't know where that perception is coming from, but let me know in the comments what you think. Do the wings feel short to you? It's also kind of hard because, you know, you're looking at this through a camera lens that's distorting it, and maybe in real life it'll feel different to you. I don't know, but they feel right to me, so there's that. So if you look down in the top here, you can see the missile batteries are in there, integrated in nicely as they should be. And I got the green stripe, which actually extends just a little bit back here and continues the way that it should. Getting this pattern exactly correct was really tricky and fun to do and figure out. And then this is an entirely new section that we haven't yet seen before. That again just carries through that accurate detailing, including, you know, the pattern of the gray versus the white, and then the little kind of accent circles there, the dark gray circles, and then the way that that just so seamlessly fits in up against this section, this curved section that angles down. I just couldn't have asked for a better fit, and I'm so happy that it worked out, because I didn't really have to do too much. I just had to kind of you know, build this piece to be roughly the size that I thought that it should be based off of my blueprints. And when I went to go test fit it to see, you know, how much adjusting I would have to do, it turned out the answer was none, no adjusting at all. It was just fit exactly right. So couldn't be more thrilled with that. That was absolutely a bit of luck that I'm more than happy to take. This section here, these should all be white. I'm just waiting for parts for those. And then I'm really happy with the detail that I was able to get in here. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but there's like a hollow section in here where there's some clips holding onto a bar, and you can really get the feeling that these rockets are loaded up through this little kind of treadmill assembly here and slotted into this hollow slot to be fired out of the rocket launchers there. You really get to see that in detail in the movie, in that one shot that we get to see from the back where the gunship rises up. We see the rocket batteries rotate, and one gets fed up into there and ready to fire. So it's really, really important to me to capture that as close as I could, and I'm really thrilled with the results. So there you go. And I think also the area down inside of here looks very clean. There's no like weird colors or anything showing. It's all nice and tidy, and it just looks how it should. So really happy with this whole top section. I think it turned out great. And here on the side, we can see the sliding doors here are finished out with the, I replaced the handle piece to be a single piece here, which is the modified brick with the bar off of the side, because I just thought that was too perfect not to use since it comes in white. And then you can see here, obviously the sliding mechanism works as intended. The interior, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the interior later, but a lot of this has been rethought and redesigned, but it looks fairly similar to how it did before externally. And then we still have the back opening hatch in here, which has been smoothed off to a certain extent, and then I want to be able to have a space in here to rack up a speeder bike, which I'm going to make, and then I wanted to have some anti-studs in here in order to be able to have some attachment points for that, but that's going to be a slightly later project. And then the rest remains fairly unchanged. I have replaced the top lights here that were yellow previously with blue, and those now go all the way back to the back of the ship, so there's 4 on either side. I think previously I only had 2. And then I've also rebuilt the arms that hold the bubble turrets. So that was something that was really bugging me, that I was relying on droid arms before. Sorry, that can sometimes happen. I was relying on droid arms for the main construction, and it was just an accident waiting to happen. You know, those tend to snap over time. And then I was relying on the other style of reinforced droid arms, which I felt a lot better about. But then even still, I was thinking that with enough play and enough use, those are going to snap. So I wanted a foolproof solution here. So I ended up switching these out for just the shallow Technic lift arms. And then this actually has the accurate articulation that we see in the movie, where there's 2 arms that can bend in the middle. And then also this fits absolutely perfectly into the slot that it's designated for, and it also rotates here at the end of the ball. So it's really like there's no downside here. It just works exactly as intended. You can place the ball in pretty much any position, and it'll hold its position there. So even, you know, on the stand, as this is tilted down, it's not really impacting anything. So if you just put this in a nice resting position here, it just falls forward into a very pleasing arrangement, I think, for the whole thing. So yeah, really, really liking how that turned out, and very happy with the decision to switch from the clip and bar system to a much more reliable Technic lift arm here. So yep, that's that. And I think that's kind of all of the main changes that I made externally. I did end up adding these candle pieces here that have technically made the cannons too long. I did that to the back one as well. But they just look better with the little kind of the fat tip on the end here. I think it just looks more beefy, it looks more serious, and slightly exaggerating the length of the cannons I think also just gives it, it just feels more right. Kind of, I guess, like how people were feeling like the wings didn't seem long enough. I was feeling like these didn't feel long enough, so I just added the candle piece to the end. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And there's your completed model. So I'm going to show you how the stand works, and then I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that I had in having to redesign portions of this. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I added the side beam supports here to the bubble turrets, and I think that they do indeed look fantastic. So that's the design that I'm going with now. It does mean that you have a little bit of extra flex tube that you have to cut and order, but I think that the look is actually kind of undeniably perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick with that, because you know, perfect is perfect. You can't really argue with that. These pieces do come in white. Here, every single piece that is actually used for this end assembly here comes in white, but I actually kind of like a little bit of gray in there. Maybe I'm holding on to the feeling of having some gray in there from previously when I had the gray flex tubes. But I just think it kind of looks cool. I don't know, but it will be something that you can definitely customize yourself and make this bubble entirely in white here if you so choose. So yeah, that's that. And something I think that doesn't really come across on screen here is just how small this model is. I previously compared it to the most recent official Gunship model, and you know, it's fairly close in size to that. But I just wanted to bring in a piece here from the Ultimate Collector Series Gunship, the official one from LEGO, and just to compare, and just to show you the kind of size difference here that we're working with. So if anybody out there was thinking that this is even close to that size, it's not. And I also just think it's fun to compare my scaled down rendition of these same details, you know, that LEGO relied on a printed piece for, which of course is totally fine. It looks great. And then looking at my own bubble turret solution there, I think that's very fun. But yeah, so I just kind of wanted to address the size, because it is kind of hard sometimes to, even if you're really familiar with LEGO, it's kind of hard to sometimes wrap your mind around how big a model actually is. But I think this is pretty much exactly minifigure scale. An argument could be made that in certain versions, you know, Clone Wars versus live action, maybe it's slightly bigger or smaller, but looking at figures standing in the various areas of the ship and how they fit into the cockpits and everything, I compared it to a lot of the movie shots, and I think it feels pretty much exactly right to minifigs. So the stand. So I actually wanted to make the stand as minimal as possible, because I always do like to not waste parts on a stand. And I wanted it to clutch. I actually designed a couple of notches underneath to accommodate basically this exact thing here, which is a couple of these pieces which slot in and just make sure that the ship can't move side to side. And then we also have 4 studs incorporated at the front to just really lock everything in once it's in place. So these gaps are designed to accommodate the round tiles that I'm using on the base of the ship to make it so that the ship can slide around nice and easy, and also for support. And then so this just kind of helps you to line all of that up as well. And it's pretty easy to do, but I have to just place my camera here onto the stand so that I can show you guys, because I need 2 hands to do it. Okay, so in order to place this on the stand, so I'm just going to get my thumb underneath here onto the Technic frame on the inside of this, turn the model upside down, and then I'm going to slot the stand into the little area that is specifically designated for it. And I'm just lining it up there. You can see the round plates lined up. And you just place it down on top, and you just squeeze to just engage those 4 studs right there. And the model is lovely and secure. So just readjust your bubble turrets there, and you're all set. So yeah, nice and easy on that. And then obviously to just pull it off, you just pull it off. So you can grab it here. I just wanted to demonstrate that at least one time in this video. so you can pick the ship up by the top section here, but I really do think it would be wise. There's a little spot, a gap right in here between all of the detail parts where the spine, the Technic frame is just accessible, and you can really just pick it up more easily by that side of it. So there's that. Yeah, the model is very back heavy, so you can see there it wanted to tip, and so that's one of those things about it. It's just part of the design of the gunship, because Star Wars, the rule of cool. The practicality of having all of this weight back here doesn't really factor into it. It's really just what looks good, and I mean, it does undeniably look good, but from an actual practical model standpoint, it's kind of a pain to handle. So, but sitting flat on a surface like this, or even I've had it where I've placed strategically some clear bricks underneath here to elevate it so that it just looks like it's hovering in for a landing. It all works out just fine. It doesn't want to tip back too badly, and only once you get it past a certain angle does it really want to go. But for the most part, it's pretty good. So yeah, there's that. That's your kind of stand integration, and on with the rest of the video. So after I shot the last video, I had this sitting flat on the table, and I was just going about the rest of my day, and I kept looking back at this because something about it was bugging me, and I just couldn't put my finger on what it was. There was like this weird angle that made it feel like the entire ship was shrinking as it got towards the back. So basically the top line here was getting narrower and narrower as it got towards the back side, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. I built this correctly. So I made a little test piece that was the length of the gap up front here, and then I moved it towards the back, and sure enough, I was losing almost, I think, over a brick worth of height from just the front section here to the back. And I was like, oh, so because it must be sag, so I'm losing that because the structure isn't strong enough. So I'll reinforce this spine, and then that will be eliminated. And it wasn't eliminated. It was still exactly the same. I put my brick back in there, and it was the same exact thing. In fact, maybe even slightly worse. So then I was like, well, okay, something's funky here. So I started to slowly peel back layers of this, very depressingly so, until I was basically down to just the frame and the support structure on the inside here that was left. And still the problem persisted, and I eventually realized that there were two things that were wrong. So first of all, the way that I had supported the floor here, so I have basically, this is kind of a sketch of the kind of thing that I'm working with, right? So on a larger scale, I had these hinge plates that were holding the front and backs, or the central section and the side sections in together, right? And then I realized that the pivot point for all of the hinges towards the back was here, right along the seam, whereas the pivot point for the front was right here. It was one stud moved over just for the way that the design needed to be in order to get those pieces in there. And then so I realized that that was causing this sort of, it was kind of bowing and flexing, and you can even see in here, like, it doesn't quite want to line up correctly in here. Sorry, this focus, it's driving me crazy. Okay, there you go. It doesn't want to quite line up, the studs aren't quite right. And this isn't a one-to-one representation of exactly what the problem was. I've built it on a smaller scale to kind of exaggerate it, but eventually what was happening is that over time, this was all pulling itself together, and it was creating this weird warping effect. So then I redesigned the entire way that the floor back here was attached, and then that basically reduced all the tension, or eliminated the tension that was causing this flex in the floor. I put my brick back in, and lo and behold, the gap was still there. It was exactly the same. It was still sloping down to the back. And once again, I had to strip everything back off of the ship again, go back to the drawing board and see what was happening. And then the second problem, which is so simple, I'm actually shocked that I didn't come up with it sooner, was revealed to me. I had, at the front of the ship, used these Technic bricks with the 2-hole spacing, so the holes match up with the stud on the top, and you can see here that it creates an offset between the Technic bricks, the two different types. And then back here I was using the regular spacing of the holes that lines up, so you can see here the studs line up, right? And so at the front of the ship, what was happening is that this was too short, and the spacing was correct. I had the correct number of studs on the front and back, going this way, and I was counting them, and I was like, is there more? Am I like gaining an extra stud in length on the bottom versus the top. And it was just because of this, it was pulling, the entire frame was pulling this top section, or straining it to go unnaturally upward, and it's causing the back end to compress. So then I had to go and redesign all of the internal mechanism of this section right here that holds everything in place, which had this huge ripple effect where every single thing, every decision that I had made had to be remade, and then the positions of everything had to be rethought in order to accommodate the new spacing. And once I did that, finally, I had a functioning model with a proper rigid structure on the inside that was actually spaced correctly. So it was an absolute nightmare, and I almost had to go back to, you know, starting from scratch with this. And the only real visible kind of thing from that is back here you can see there are these two, I guess the bottoms of two lift arms that are slightly exposed on the inside of this archway piece here. You can kind of see those poking out just ever so slightly through there. And that is the only thing that I had to do in order to you know, visibly, the only visual change I had to make on the exterior that you can see, but it is necessary for the spacing, and now everything does work. And you know, it's worth it, because if it's not correct, then it just simply isn't going to work in the long term, and you're going to have a model that is stressed, and the parts are going to break over time, and we don't want that. So yeah, really, really glad that the saga was finally put to rest. I put my piece back in there, I measured it, and it was correct height, front to back. So very, very nice. Very happy with that. So there you go. That kind of explains my little freak out back to formula moment there.
Back to formula.
I can definitely see why. Norman Osborn was freaking out at the prospect of going back to formula in Spider-Man, because it's a lot of work to redo and go back and undo everything that you have done, but ultimately in the end, worth it. All right, and finally, why am I not going to consider this part of my ultimate playset scale line? Really, it just comes down to the strength and stability and the grabbability of the model. So one thing that I did unfortunately have to omit is the carry handle that I had been planning for the longest time, basically since the start of this model, that was going to be integrated into the back section here to be able to pick up the model with ease and move it around. Unfortunately, I did have to get rid of that. The only reason for that is that when you picked it up from the handle, which was functioning, I did actually have a working prototype in here, what it would do is put all of the strain of picking up the entire weight of the model, and especially once you have the wings and everything in here, it's really, really heavy back here, but it put it all right here. And so it was causing the entire flex of the weight of the model in the front to pull down and want to basically wrench apart the middle section of the model right here. And you could actually see it visibly when you would pick the model up or put it down. You could see the whole thing would kind of settle or expand when you picked it up again. And I just knew that that was a recipe for disaster in the long term, because it was just going to stress everything that's happening right the way down through here. It kind of, it's kind of like the best place to pick it up from a weight distribution point of view, but from a structural standpoint, it's like the worst possible spot to pick the model up. So it just kind of it didn't end up being feasible for what I would consider to be a legal technique in my own eyes, and so I just decided to leave that out. Luckily, though, the aesthetics and everything are on point, so at least you have that element of it. So I didn't have to make any compromises along the top there visually, which is a nice trade-off. But when it's on the stand, it's actually very, very sturdy and very secure, and what you can do is very easily just pick it up and move it without the need to like carefully get your fingers underneath and everything. You can just place a hand right in here and do it. And also you can just pick it up right from any central spot. You can even compress this net and you can just put your hand under here and you can just hold onto the spine that runs right the way through the model here. So that is something that I think I was willing to let go of the handle, because there are enough points that it is secure enough to pick up. And also you can pick it up from, if you hold the front and then also get a hand underneath the back door, you can pick it up that way as well, no problem. The other thing is the amount of tension that is required in here to hold and make sure that these wings stay level just creates a little bit of an additional kind of flexing through the spine here, through the back section, so you can kind of see the back end wobbling and the front staying put. So that's another thing where I would say you don't want to mess with the wings too much, because you do risk snapping something loose, which you definitely don't want to have. But it is sturdy, it is not going anywhere, but I'm just not willing to call it a playset, because I think it is best for older teens and adults, you know, or I mean kids, it's fine too. If parents, you want to build this with your kids, it's totally fine. But I'm just saying, leaving it alone with your kids as a play model, it's probably going to get smashed fairly soon, and I just don't want to, you know, mislead anybody with my designations. So that's why I'm just calling this a regular old mock, but I'm very, very happy with how it looks, and hopefully you guys are too. I think all of the tolerances and the gaps or lack thereof are looking really good. There's only a few very minor spots, like underneath the wings here. You can just see the tiniest little sliver of gap, but I think for the most part, it looks pretty seamless, and I'm very happy. So yeah, the next thing to do for me is to add in the little speeder bikes that are going to go back here, and also start thinking about the conversion to the Clone Wars version. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the specific nuances of the different Gunship iterations for the CG animated Clone Wars show, they eliminated this arched doorway and they added a second door right here, and they also eliminated the bubble turrets. That was to make this a spacefaring craft, I guess because in the show they wanted to show these taking off from space and landing on a planet without people saying, hey, how come everyone isn't dying in this in this compartment here with you know, the openness into space. So you have to fill in these slits right here with gray, and then you have to make a second door, and you have to eliminate this archway. So it's a fair amount of work, but I think it should be fairly doable with the design that I have. So I'll see about that, and you know, some of the internals have to change, like the structure of all of these bars and things is a little bit different. There's no net. The cargo net is removed for the Clone Wars version. These bubble turrets are no longer clear. They are solid white. So yeah, there's a lot of subtle things to change, but I think that's, again, like I say, pretty doable, and I'll be working on that, provided that the demand for it is high once I have finished this one. So let me know down in the comments if that is something that you want to see. Probably work on an alternate color scheme as well. This is intended to be the fresh off the production line, clean, shiny version, and I was thinking about doing a battle damage version, which has a lot more gray panels and a lot more kind of damage and off colors and things like that, because you know, this thing has seen a lot of action throughout the course of the Clone Wars, and it doesn't always look the most shiny and brand new. So yeah, those are all my kind of thoughts for the future of this model, but job number one is to get the instructions for this done. It's going to be a tricky one because it involves a lot of things like custom lengths of flex tube in here, which Lego Studio does not like to work with, things like that. So it's going to involve a lot more kind of real world photography integration than my usual instructions do, so that's going to be a pain. But you know, I'm going to get done, like I said, ASAP for you guys, because I know a lot of people are interested in this model, so I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you coming on this journey with me towards my custom LAAT gunship. Please do let me know down in the comments what you think, even if it's terrible, even if you think it's the worst thing you've ever seen. It's engagement, so that helps me, so just let me know. Alright guys, I'm going to get to work on the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in, for liking and subscribing. I'll see you on the next one, and may the Force be with you.